Okay, Junior, whenever you're ready.
Okay. I am calling this Back Bay Architectural Commission Violations Committee public meeting to order at 4:30 p.m. on January 8th, 2025. You can participate in this hearing by going to our Zoom meeting link in our agenda posted online at https://www.boston.gov/public hyphen notices / 162675506 or by calling 301-715-8592 and entering ID 93607483959 #. You can also submit written comments or questions to backbayac@boston.gov. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this hearing online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Back Bay Architectural Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use a platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your questions to staff via email at backbayac@boston.gov. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person and should be focused on a project's exterior architectural features, which include landscaping. Issues related to use, street traffic, and noise are outside of the commission's purview.
All right. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Genia. We had a little change in our agenda. So for the Violations Committee, we will only be reviewing the violation at 384 Marlborough Street. We will not be discussing 358 Marlborough Street. They will be coming next month in February. So commissioners present who are on the Violations Committee are David Sampson and Genia Dimitriadis, and Tom High is also here, Commissioner of the Back Bay Architectural Commission. And I'm Joseph Cornish, Director of Design Review for the Boston Landmarks Commission, and Sarah Lawton is our Preservation Assistant who is here with us. So
And you
let's,
had some comments, Joe, for this one?
yeah, I'll give a little kind of some background and where we were. So this came to us as work at the rear yard not being executed as approved by the commission. And what we found, this here are the previous conditions, that concrete was poured apparently to prevent rats from entering the area. However, it did encroach very closely to the existing trees. And of course, there's concern about the health of these trees if this concrete is left in place. So I did a site visit on December 23rd, and it's hard to tell here because it was a little snowy, but the concrete has been removed from being in close proximity to the trees. And here's the other, the property owner did consult with a arborist, and we have the arborist report here with recommendations for ongoing care. And the arborist did visit the property after the concrete was removed. So after my site visit on the 23rd. This is dated January 6, 2025. So my recommendation is to approve the removed areas of concrete, but provided that the healthcare recommendations included in the arborist report are implemented in the coming year, and that the rear yard landscape plan must be executed as approved by the commission in 2023. So that is the installation of the pavers over the remaining concrete as approved in the plan. This was the approved plan that we had here.
Yep.
But there is more to this. There's other work at the roof that was installed not as approved by the commission, but I think let's resolve the discuss the issue in the rear yard first. I did share this arborist report with Lori Thomas and Margaret Picorni from the Garden Club. Margaret did comment that the trees were misidentified. 3 of the trees in the rear were misidentified. So her concern was that the proposed care may not be appropriate for the species. So the property owner should confirm the correct species of the trees and appropriate care for their future health. So before I would just want to ask the property owner if you could introduce yourself and just add anything if that you would like.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Joe. My name is Tarek Hassan. I'm the owner of the property, and I will be living in it with my family, wife, and my 2 kids. Other than that, no, we did actually bring in Boston Garden Club, that the company that you recommended, Barrett. Brian Andrews came in and checked the place. The trees are healthy and in good shape. Sorry to hear that he didn't identify them for what they are. I will make sure that we'll bring him back again and make sure that he knows exactly what that is and make sure that they get the right treatment for it. If that makes sense. Other than that, just one thing I would add, that everything on the design that you see, it would remain exactly the same design, exactly how that is. That would look exactly how you see it. Using the same materials, all that stuff, it will remain the same. And we love our trees, by the way, just in case. We want those trees to be beautiful and healthy as well.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie and David, did you have any questions or comments?
So we're just talking about the front with the trees and the concrete, correct?
Yeah, well, it's the rear
back.
yard.
Oh, the rear.
back.
Yep.
In those pictures that you were just showing was the rear right there? Or
Yes.
right there?
Yep. Yeah. So this was the concrete that was installed, and you can see it was going right up,
So
very close.
So Joe, the plan that you referenced that we originally approved, how is this different than what they're showing now? Or
Well,
is it the same?
it will be the same because now they will.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be the same because they'll have done all this. Okay.
Yeah. So they still need to put pavers over the concrete. Yep.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
there is some green that needs to be. I guess, is that going to be grass in this area or ground cover?
Yeah. Some
Was there
grass and
some-
some.
Was there some concern, Joe, about the drainage?
Yeah, I don't know that it specified how these were going to be laid when we reviewed it. So I think the real concern is the health of the trees, the existing trees, and that the
Okay.
concrete is pulled away. And that, I think the proposed care schedule, if we can confirm it is appropriate, that is done in the coming year.
Yes.
Fair enough for me for that particular part.
Thank you.
All right. So Gina, should I move on to the roof?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So it was brought to my attention that there may be, at the last hearing, there may have been roof work executed that was not as approved by the commission. So this was the roof deck was remanded to staff for me to go out and review the mock-up to make it minimally visible from the street. So I did do that. This is what I approved, and I can say the front railing is, although it is somewhat visible, it is in the location and the height that I approved it, but the rear railing was installed in kind of a jogged way. And here were the location of the mechanical units that have been installed over in this area. Can you see my cursor here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just show you. So here, here's the front of the building. That was, the location of the mock-up that I saw. And I do remember if it was another cold day in 2023 when I went out to look at it. But, we moved it, we adjusted it a few times, and it just, this was, we looked at moving it back further, and it just wasn't really going to be any less visible. So to be compliant with our guidelines, I approved it here inside the inner edge of the chimney. So this is as approved, but the rear was supposed to line up with the inner edge of the rear
Oh.
chimney. And you can see, it was installed with this jog, and the mechanical equipment was supposed to be located in this area here.
So it's in
And-
the opposite area? Is that what you're showing?
Yes, yes. And, I don't know that that really makes a difference where the mechanical units are, as long as you can't see it. You can, this isn't a great photo, but you can see it from the alley. So I do think,
It was on the other side. Would you see it just the same?
I would think so. I think where they are, so they're, supposed to be side by side. And
Looks like it should have been set back a little bit from the
Yes.
roof line.
yeah, see, so this is the one that's visible. So, I mean, I do think the railing should be moved to where it was approved at the inner edge of the chimney, and that the mechanical equipment should be side by side, either on this side or the side that it was approved. I don't think it really makes a big difference if it's on this
Okay.
side or this side, but I do think that the railing should be brought into a straight line as was approved
Right,
by,
this was,
yeah, and it gets, so just,
And also-
here's what was, this is where it was approved.
so Tariq, do you know what happened, why it got done differently?
Yes, great question. It's just when you open the hatch, when you come out, honestly, if it was right there, it would be literally right in front of you, and literally just a few feet away if we had it done on that side. So we decided to move it on the right side. That was one of the reasons. But also all the plumbing all stacked on the right side of the building, so it kind of made sense to have it on that right side. That was really the only reasoning why we did that, honestly. But if the concern is that the visibility of the HVAC, we can try, if that's okay with you, move it back. Did that make sense? Because you can't see the railing from behind. We could ask the contractor to move the actual piece maybe further back out. That's very doable. But I would ask if it'd be okay to keep the railing that way, since it's not visible from the
It
other
is.
side. It is visible?
Yeah. Yeah, I
The
think,
back railing?
No,
Yes.
Gene, I don't
Yeah,
think
this-
I don't know that the rear railing is visible from the alley.
Now, the straight one or the crooked one?
The straight one. The quicker one. The quicker one too as
See,
well.
Yeah, the front one
Yeah.
you can, and that's where I approved it. So the front one is as built, but it's the back one,
Well,
it
comes
was,
out,
it's always-
visible.
sorry, it was approved again, to be a straight
straight
line.
across, right? Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
why that would have been changed, Tariq. I mean, the thing that concerns me, I understand moving to the different side. And again, any changes you need to check with Joe, because you can't just make changes to something
Agreed.
that's been approved, but I mean, they should have been
Agreed.
side by side and the railing needs to be straight. I mean, there's no reason I see for a jog out like that.
In
Gotcha.
Genia, they could leave them on that side of the building. They just need to pull that first HVAC unit back.
Well, weren't they
straight-
supposed to? Right, David, didn't Joe say they were originally approved side by side? So
Yes.
it would have been next to the one, and it wouldn't have been an
Correct.
issue.
So if we straighten out this railing to go straight across, pull out, take that front. These two are on the other side of the building itself, but they can stay there. But pull the front one next to the back one. Yep.
Okay.
Which is a very short distance. All you
Yeah.
just need some more piping, some more hose, and you can get that done easy.
Yeah.
And then
Okay,
make
so
the
then
railing straight
got it. So move the front one next to the one behind it.
to the left of
Exactly.
it. Yep,
Okay, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
fix the railing.
and fix
And
the
fix the
railing.
railing. And make the railing straight, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, I
You
mean,
got
it's
it.
supposed to be in
Okay.
front of them to help screen them, not behind them.
So,
Yeah.
No.
gotcha.
No,
Gotcha.
it's straight, but from the back, from the inside edge of the chimney.
Yes, good,
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, so
Tom.
the units will be outside the
Yeah,
railing.
Of the railing,
Yeah, so you know
Okay, all
this is
right, 'cause
this
you're
is
gonna do
the
them in the back.
this is the location of the railing,
yeah.
and so you're just going to continue from here straight
Oh,
across.
okay, I thought it was the back part that was changed. It's the whole bigger part that was, okay.
Yeah, I mean this is correct, this small piece here,
The small piece.
but this is the jog that goes.
I wonder why they did that. That's weird. Okay.
So-
See,
Yeah.
We can I have this straight?
so I mean
okay.
it needs to be built as approved, which was going straight across here
With the
without a
inside
jog.
of the chimney, not the outside,
Correct. And then, you know, the 2 units can go over here.
and go in
Right.
front. Okay.
They just have to be side by side.
Right. And then we're good.
Okay, so Ryan goes inside the chimney.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, so where the short piece of the railing is the correct place. The longer piece needs to line up.
Yep.
okay. Yeah, we can get that done.
Good. I make a motion
All right,
Mhm.
we'll open
Check
up
the
if we need to.
public comment.
Okay, members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send your comments to staff via email at backbayac@boston.gov. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person and should be focused on a project's exterior architectural features, which include landscaping. Issues related to use, street traffic, and noise are outside of the commission's purview. And I think Sergey has his hand up.
Okay, Serge.
Yeah, thank you, Ginia, and thank you, Joe. Sir Savar, Vice Chairman of the Neighborhood Association of Back Bay. One thing that I would like to confirm here is I did a quick check to the ISD for the plan for the roof. And what I could find is even the plan that was originally approved by the commission was not approved by ISD because the ISD wanted a penthouse, a head house to access the roof and not a hatch. And I could not find a variance that was done to have a hatch on the roof. So I'm curious if there was a variance that was granted for having a hatch, or actually the commission will need to look again at this when a head house is constructed instead.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say if they're required to build a head house, then they'll have to submit a new application for that.
Was the hatch already there?
Yes, initially, yes.
So the hatch has been there. It's not
Yes.
a new item for the building, correct?
No, the hatch was there.
They had this difference on smaller one,
Yes,
but there was a hatch.
yes.
So
There was a hatch before.
this gave you access to the roof.
It gave us access to the roof. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't
see
I don't
any
think we
other
can say
hands.
anything about ISD.
Not, yeah, I mean, again,
Yeah.
that's if they have to come back with a head house, then that'll require our review.
Right.
All right, I don't see any other hands. So, David, did you want to make a motion? And
Sure,
so
I'll
this
make a-
is for the rear yard and the roof.
Okay, so let's touch on the roof very quickly. So I'll make a motion to approve that with the following provisos: that the first HVAC that's closest to the roof line be pulled back so it's next to the back HVAC. The railing where it jogs out is pulled back so it's behind the chimney and goes straight across with no jog.
Yeah.
And then of course, any comments to staff about that. And regarding the backyard, we'll approve that as it currently has been presented tonight. They'll pick up the plans that were originally approved and also consult with the Back Bay Garden Club in regards to the improper labeling of the trees, figure what the proper care is, and again, comments to staff.
Okay, I guess
Jeannie,
I'll
do you want a
second.
second? Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay.
No one else second.
All right. So David Sampson
Yes.
and Genia Dimitriadis.
Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you. So Tarek, I will forward you the information I have about the trees so you can start the discussion with your arborist.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I think, Genia, that's
Yeah.
all we have if you want to.
Yeah. Adjourn the meeting.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
David,
then-
do you want to make, I was going to say, David, do you want to make a motion to adjourn the?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. And Genia, you'll second that. So
Okay, so let's
that's adjourned
second
and
and
yep,
approved.
adjourned at 4:50 and we'll start again at 5 o'clock.
Perfect.
Okay, so we'll call back
Thanks,
in.
Joe.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to all of you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate you.
And Kathy, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. I'll start right away. I'm calling this Back Bay Architectural Commission public hearing to order at 5:03 p.m. on January 8th, 2025. You can participate in this hearing by going to our Zoom meeting link in our agenda posted online at https www.boston.gov public notices 162-67506 or by calling 301-715-8592 and entering ID 936-0748-3959 hashtag. You can also submit written comments or questions to backbayac@boston.gov. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this hearing online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Back Bay Architectural Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you may press *9 to raise your hand, or you may send your questions to staff via email at backbayac@boston.gov. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person and should be focused on a project's exterior architectural features, which include landscaping. Issues related to use, street traffic, and noise are outside of the commission's purview.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Commissioners present, we have David Sampson, Tom High, Genia Dimitriadis, Kathy Connor, Susanna Gaspar, Tanvi Nair, and Franklin Ross. Hello, Franklin. Anyone else here? Did I miss any commissioners? No. Okay, we also have myself, Joe Cornish, Director of Design Review for the Boston Landmarks Commission, and Sarah Lawton, Preservation Assistant for the Boston Landmarks Commission. So we can move to our first project, application 25.0463 BB 131 Commonwealth Avenue at Roof Replace Chimney Pots. Kathy, do you want to see if there's applicant is here?
I shall, yes. Do we have someone representing the project for 131 Commonwealth Avenue, please?
I believe we have two of us are here from the architectural team. This is Catherine Truman. My colleague Ryan Nevedomsky is also here. And yeah, I can try to find him in the scroll at the top. And Adam Frost Wiley is here representing the owner. I believe that is everyone. I didn't see anyone else from the project team.
Thanks, Catherine. And Joe will read the staff notes, and then the floor will be yours and your team.
Great, thank you. Staff notes that 131 Commonwealth Avenue is a 4-story brick row house built in 1880 and designed by Carl Femer. Staff recommends approval with provisos. The applicant should explore alternate areas on the roof to install the proposed vents. I do want to note that it was brought to my attention that these are specifically for fireplaces, so I understand that it does have to be installed at the chimney. If this is not possible, installing the equipment on the existing chimney pots in a reversible manner should be explored. If there are no other options, then the pot should be replaced and equipment installed as submitted, provided that all metal elements are painted black. So I can, Ryan, I did add just some photos to show existing conditions. Here, front facade, here's the chimney. If you can see my cursor, one of the chimneys where the chimney pots are being proposed for replacement. And here's a rooftop view, front facade, and here is the second chimney where the chimney pots are being proposed for replacement. And close-up views here. And then I think this is where your presentation begins, Ryan.
Correct. Yes. This is representing the existing chimney pots at our chimneys. There's a combination of stainless or not stainless, cast iron chimney pots, as well as clay chimney pots with a little bit more of a decorative cap. And currently the cast iron pots are deteriorating a little bit, especially at the base. They're compromised a bit where they meet up with the chimney. So we know that those need to be replaced, and in an effort to just keep it consistent across the board, we like to replace them sort of so that they're matching across the spectrum with a simple round chimney pot. Yeah, that you see right there. If you go back to the previous page, the blue dots are signifying where we do have the existing cast iron chimney pots, and then the light orange showing where we have the existing clay octagonal chimney pots. So what we need to do is actually introduce some equipment to augment the fireplaces and make them code compliant for the gas fireplace and or wood burning fireplace where we have them. So we have this laid out to show you where we will have blank chimney pots where we actually don't have the flues in use for anything. So those will be left alone as is with no equipment on top of them. The next one is in a spot where we will have the wood burning fireplace, and this is meant to help increase the smoke flow from the wood burning fireplace itself. We need to increase the ventilation because of the length between where the fireplace is and where the chimney is. The next type is for preventing backdrafting from where we have open gas log sets in the house. And those are in spaces like living room and kitchen and that sort of thing. And then the last type is where we have a sealed unit, sealed gas burning unit, which they occur in the bedrooms mainly. So anywhere where we don't have to have that augmenting ventilation, you'll see a plain clay chimney pot, and then the other spots will have this equipment on it, and they will be painted black to try to go away as much as possible. And the next page will show the elevation of what that will look like, looking toward 129, and you see two chimney pots with equipment on the left, one in the middle, and then 3 to the right.
Is there, if I could ask, when I look at that drawing, it's really striking the height differences. And I'm wondering whether there might be 2 heights of pot. One which has a top on it, and one, if it doesn't have the top on it, that the clay or ceramic pot would extend up so that the variation wasn't quite as dramatic.
The only thing that I would think about that, like, is if we're painting the equipment on top of it black, you will actually start to read this
Yeah,
like
you're right.
toothing going
Yeah,
on. You know what I mean?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
This it's better to, if the color is constant, it should be, the height should be constant too. Yeah.
And then if we look at the next page at the last elevation, our chimney pots are to the right of this drawing. And again, 3 chimney pots here have equipment on top of it.
I'm assuming there's no flexibility to change the location of these equipment. You know, if you're going like A, B, C, C, is there any way to move the tall elements to the inside?
No, because these flues are already set up going to those specific fireplaces within each room.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. It's very, very prescribed as
What
it
is-
is.
What is most visible from below?
What do you mean?
If I'm down on the sidewalk looking up, what am I looking at? Those 3 end caps right there?
Yeah, that one is definitely going to be the one that you're seeing from Commonwealth Ave.
In the others, you can't really see from the street. Does that sound right?
So in this elevation, the ones to the left, you're not going to see that from the street. You're going to see it from the alley, but you're not going to see that from the street.
And that type D appears to be a square. That is the kind of the most, prominent from ComAv. How does that marry up with the round footprint of the clay?
I believe that they have a cap insert that sits on so that it fits in with the round clay. Yeah.
Oh. And you believe that black would be the best color for these to kind of go away?
Yeah, I mean,
Or historically, sort of the most sensitive?
most is going to make it disappear the most, I think. It's just something that simple and goes away.
Is it terracotta painted black, or is it just the tops you're adding to it?
Just the tops are adding to it. The terracotta
the
is still
top.
terracotta. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind that, maybe in 20 or more years, this equipment will be obsolete and go away. So then we'll have consistent clay chimney pots. So
Very sad to see the old ones leave the premises.
I mean, the cast iron ones are nice, but they're not holding up very well.
The other ones. Yeah.
Joe, you had suggested as part of your recommendation that before we go all the way, that they should further investigate both relocating the vents, which you said is not going to be possible because they're fireplace vents, but also reusing the existing pots. Do you still think that that's something that should be pursued before, or do you think that, given the fact that the iron ones are deteriorating, that the conclusion is going to be go with this?
yes. Yeah, I think the latter, to go with what's being proposed. I mean, safety and functionality are definitely important in this situation.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Thank you, John. Let's go to the public comments. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you may press *9 to raise your hand, or you may send your questions to staff via email at backbayac@boston.gov. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person and should be focused on a project's exterior architectural features, which include landscaping. Issues related to use, street traffic, and noise are outside of the commission's purview. And Sue, I see that you have your hand raised.
I do, thank you very much. I just wondered if they had looked at replacing the deteriorating metal pots with ones that match the existing, or the orange ones, whatever they are, clay pots, whether that was ever considered.
The issue that comes up with using that in the sort of decorative band that is around at the top of the clay is actually having the equipment sitting there is, I don't think, even possible, just because of that, the perforations and the decoration at the top. It needs to have a solid top for it, which is why we're suggesting this simpler, just solid clay piece.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Sue. And Serge, I see your hand is up as well.
Yes, oops. Yeah. I would be better with unmuted. Thank you so much. Yes, regarding the painting of the thing, I totally agree with the staff recommendation that all of these should be painted black, because we don't think that having them shining and actually attracting more eyes would be better. Is there any concern that these equipment may not be painted, and now we could be in a situation that, you know, they would be installed and they would still be in a shiny aluminum, or these can be painted without any concern? That's our main thing. I think in this case, the only solution that is proposed, I think, is what can be done to accommodate code, but we would definitely prefer to not have any shining elements starting to bring more attention to the elements on the roof.
Yeah, we've been confirmed with the GC and the manufacturers that these can be painted. So
Excellent.
Great.
Thank
And it looks like I don't see anyone else. Do you see anyone, Joe? Or do we have any other written comments?
No, no other comments.
Fantastic. Let's go back to you, Tom, for your motion, please.
I move that we approve this as presented with the proviso that all metal elements be painted black.
Second,
David Sampson,
Yes.
Tom High,
Yes.
Gina Dimitriadis,
yes,
Kathy Connor,
Yes.
Susanna Gaspar,
Yes.
Tanvi Nair,
Yes.
and Franklin Ross.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And now we're moving on to an advisory review for 263 Clarendon Street. Do we have someone here from 263 Clarendon Street, please?
Let's see. If you could raise your hand, who's going to be presenting? I know I saw some team members here who okay. All right. Mimi, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Right, can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hi, thank you. Anyone else that I should make
Yes.
a co-host? Yeah.
If you can elevate also Alexander Porter and Michael LeBlanc.
Okay.
We do have others from the school, but I think we'll invite them if needed.
Just
Should
take me.
I go ahead and share my screen?
Sure. Hold on, let me just make.
And you're a little faint in terms of our being able to hear you, at least in my case.
Oh, is this
I don't-
better?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Michael LeBlanc here. So
Okay, I think that's fine. If it's
Okay.
just Alexander, I think we'll be fine. Thank you.
Okay, and again, this is an advisory review, so no vote will be taken, and I don't typically give staff comments for advisory reviews in the back bay. So if you'd like to start sharing your screen, please go right ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for your time this evening. I think we really are looking for some feedback on this project. This is a proposal for the learning project, and I'll give you a little bit of context. I'm sure you're familiar with the school, but their main location is at 107 Marlborough Street. They are a K through 6th grade school. Kindergarten is currently at 110 Commonwealth Avenue. It's in the lower level of the First Baptist Church. They have recently purchased 263 Clarendon Street. This is across from the playground and, you know, very close to their existing main building on Marlborough Street. And the proposal is to convert this building for school use. The exact class age of students hasn't been determined, but there is an intent to add classrooms and administrative space to this building. It is a residential building currently, so we will be going through a zoning change, but we wanted to get your feedback on our design proposal before we go through that process. But just a couple of details. The building has a unit per floor, and because we're changing the use, we need to upgrade it for life safety and accessibility. There will be a lot of interior renovations, but we're really trying to minimize the impact on the exterior to what we must do to comply with code, to comply with accessibility, and comply with egress in particular, is what we want to talk to you about today. So this is an aerial view of the building. It sits along Clarendon Street and Public Alley 423. And we're highlighting two elements that are up for discussion because of the impact we're proposing. It's an existing structure. It's a one-story structure that is attached at the rear of the building, and it currently has some air conditioning equipment on it. And B is the main entrance of the building. It's a classic piano nobile where around 4.5 feet up to the first level, and we have to provide an accessible entrance that's equal for all. So those are the challenges that we have. And here is a plan of the first floor level. And we're just want to highlight 4 different things that we need to get your feedback on. Is 1, how we deal with the entrance. 2, we are planning on adding an elevator, and the intent is to stay within the building envelope and not have it in any way project outside of the building envelope, even in regards to the overrun on the roof. And then 3, add an exterior stair on the rear of the building to get that second means of egress, because that is a requirement of this program. Just to give you a little bit of where we really are early in the process. So what we're going to share with you is at concept level, but we have had an informal review with Joe Cornish, and we shared some ideas, and he really sent us back to rethink a few ideas. We followed up in November. We met with NAB right during the holidays and got some excellent feedback from them. And then we met on Monday with the licensing and building use with that group as well, and heard their feedback as well. So we're here in front of you today, and just want to admit that while we have some concepts, they are not fully developed. And perhaps I'm mentioning that in regards to the previous group you were reviewing. We're not at that level of detail of knowing every detail around this project. But I trust you understand that. So I'm going to walk you through the entry and the plan. So the plan on your right is the first floor, the main entrance into the 263 Clarendon. We are proposing and want to get your advice on 2 different approaches. In this approach, we're proposing that we push back the entrance to create a vestibule, which allows a lift to get us up to that first floor classroom level and to get us to a lower level, which is level with the exterior garden around on the rear. The layout is fairly straightforward. We need a classroom of around this size to accommodate the program. And so we think that we've accommodated their needs within the building envelope and without affecting too much. I will point out on the first floor, there is this extension. It's a part of the original part of the building, and we do plan to keep it intact. Then you can see a second option that we want to review with you, where we actually pull the door forward. It certainly becomes a taller door. We're going to show you a couple of precedent examples that we've seen in the neighborhood and this allows us to solve accessibility in a slightly different way. We would put a door at the main, at grade, which would allow an entry vestibule where we still have the lift and the plan on the interior remains the same. So
And that door would be similar to the door at 267?
correct. And I have a slide of the elevation in 1 minute.
Great.
So this is the lower level. The impact is very similar. We have the lift to the lower level, and then you could see the rear exterior stair that we're proposing. This is just to give you a view of levels 2 and 3. As we go up the building, we have a large open plan. We're able to tuck in the number of restrooms we need for code, etc., a stair, an elevator, and then the second means of egress. One thing I'm going to point out is you can see this extension here, and you'll see it in our renderings in a few slides. This is the neighboring building. Right now they have a horizontal connection to allow for their second means of egress. So we want to make sure that we're still allowing that in the future proposal. So just pointing it out, and you'll see again in some renderings in a moment. And then on the 4th floor, the highest floor of the building, we're in the mansard level of the roof. It starts to slope back, and we have just admin program up on this level. So maybe I'll walk you through the elevations that show those two options, where we have an entry that is very similar to the French library entrance, where we push back the stairs and the door in order to accommodate a vestibule. Behind this wall panel, it will remain intact the way it is today. Really what we're affecting is this interior condition. And then you can see on the rear, we're starting to show that exterior stair. But all of the rest of the facade, the side elevation, everything remains intact. And so similar to that example that I keep referencing at 300 Berkeley Street, they had a condition that was paired. You can see the image with the original design on the right-hand side, and on the left, they pushed the entry back to create this vestibule to get to a lift. I don't know the history of this, but they did add a gate, and we assume that might have been for security reasons. And so that's something that we're trying to wrestle with too. The alternative approach is that we do something similar to what's happening at 275 Clarendon and even 267 Clarendon, which is 2 doors away. The main difference between those two proposals is we're trying to create an accessible entrance, and this still has a step. And so we found something that is more relevant to what we're proposing.
Right. And let me just say that from the standpoint of the architecture of this set of buildings, obviously no change would be the preference, but that's not on the table. Having a door, not necessarily one of the kind that you've drawn here, but one that's more consistent with 267, makes a great deal more sense architecturally, I think, than having it open and having a open area or a gateway, which didn't work very well at 300 Berkeley, but it would work even less well here because of the nature of these buildings.
Okay, I think that's helpful feedback. And maybe if you could just expand on, is 267 in your opinion more successful because it's a solid door? Is that what you're reacting
Yeah,
to
I
in
think
this
that if you're
elevation?
looking as this looks like a 1940s glass door. If you're looking, what you want to do is match as much as possible the symmetry and the balance of this grouping of buildings. And a solid door, I think, will work better. But you play around with different renderings. The first step is to say a door as opposed to a cavity.
Right.
And I'll second
Okay.
that, Tom.
Okay, that's helpful feedback. And honestly, this was the feedback that we received from NAB, and we thought it was a pretty, a pretty astute recommendation. And as we drew through it, we were feeling like, well, this is looking much more in line with what's adjacent. Then moving on to the rear, so I'll just point out the existing condition. So these are the horizontal exits that I was referencing in plan. You'll see them on every level, and so we want to be mindful of our neighbors and still be good neighbors. So that requires us to move 30 inches away from the building to locate this new exterior stair. Because we're at the concept level, we haven't really gotten into the detailing of the stair. I think we have a little bit more ambitions than just having it look like an exterior stair. And so we've been looking at some precedents where maybe the stringer is pushed back, maybe the rails are a little bit lighter. We'll have to comply with code. It's not a typical fire escape, which sometimes doesn't meet code requirements. And so that's something that we want to further study as we develop the design. But wanted again your feedback on some of the of your thoughts on handling that condition. We have looked long and hard in the neighborhood, and you all could probably point to even more examples, but the one that we keep looking at is the the Montessori School at 30 Fairfield. That has a very similar condition. I couldn't tell you that the rise to run and the landings meet code, etc. But that has, a bow off the back of the building, similar to what we have. And so that is a precedent that we've been looking at.
Yeah, I'll just add that you originally you were thinking of doing an enclosed stair, which was really just adding too much mass to the rear of the building and inconsistent with the guideline. Yeah. For rear
Yeah, so
additions.
we tried and we knew that we weren't meeting the guidelines, and so we are sheepishly hiding these, but we just wanted to say we did try studying other alternatives, and they were just not satisfying, and that's why Joe sent us back to the drawing board the first time.
Did you say that the reason that it has to come out 30 inches is because of the fire balconies with the neighbor?
Correct.
Is there no way to incorporate the fire balconies with the neighbor if you rebuilt those fire balconies so that you could get it further back towards? Because the biggest, and well, there's obviously several problems with that massive fire escape, which is required. But if you could get it further towards the building, that would make it less intrusive, because this is visible not only from the alley, but also from the passageway as you look through from Marlborough Street. So it's going to be quite visible.
Yeah, and I can't say that we've tried everything and we'll continue to look. The issue is the way the way the stair can be organized is that the mid landing, this point here, is what's closest to our neighboring window. And so we can't really get access from them to the mid landing without doing something complicated. And once we start to touch that dimension, we're probably going to have more width that offsets the building, because right now it's 30 inches. And if we have to meet, today's code, it's gonna grow to more than 30 inches. So we're feeling, and maybe I'll just go back to a plan, that we're as tight as we could possibly be. But by all means, if there are clever ideas, we're open to it. And Alexander, if there's anything you want to chime in all of the options that we've studied, by all means.
One thing I want to just mention, if you go back to the last slide, you're rendering, sorry, with the
Yeah.
stairwell, you're rendering this in one way, but when you look at these the suggested light touch fire stair, it does feel like those would present differently, and I do think that has a nicer feel, and I presume that it would render a little differently on here. So
What is the difference?
it just feels
what
it
is the
feels
light
like
touch?
when you're looking at the handrails that they provide more transparency and are less sort of in your face than what it feels like in the rendering. I don't know. Did you guys use the light touch suggestion in the renderings?
No, I'd say that what we're showing in the image is a first attempt at what the stair, may start to look like. But our intent is to really try to reduce the elements as much as possible. Like Mimi has said, we have to both negotiate with constructability and code requirements for these elements, making sure that the guardrails resist 100 pounds per square foot, et cetera, et cetera. But it's our ambition to make this look as light as possible. So like to that end, for instance, there's not, in the renderings, we're trying to reduce vertical elements. We have 2 vertical elements shown. We are fairly confident with our structural engineer that we'll be able to accomplish the stair with those 2 vertical elements. I think the detailing of the stringers and the tread nosings and stuff could still be worked on a lot further to
Right.
get closer to the images we're showing.
And the guardrails too. I mean, I think that if that's more of a wire and turnbuckle that can really take the force that we need to meet, I think it will render lighter. We're just not at that point of really solving it. And more than anything, we just need to feel confident enough that this is meeting the expectations of your design standards, so we can engage our consultants, our structural engineer, and really get into the finer details. Of course, we'll come back to you because we are just getting an advisory today, and we know we have to go through the formal process. And certainly we'll come back with more refined alternatives.
Well, you say meets our guide. This does not meet the guidelines, and there's no way it can meet the guidelines, but it may have to be an exception because it's a school and you have to have special fire escape requirements. I assume you've looked exhaustively at the possibility of having an inside stair, and that's not possible.
It is not possible. We have looked as exhaustively for a couple of reasons. One is it just doesn't meet the requirements of the program, but even more basic than that, because of the stair locations, we can't get 2 stairs far enough apart to get the distance that we need to meet egress requirements.
It's a short building.
And an elevator. It's not a big building, and when we're putting an elevator and 2 stairs, we're really making a structural, complex. We're changing the complete, diaphragm of the building. So that was the limitation. Maybe I'll go back to the last image while you're thinking about additional comments.
I know you're not presenting anything definitive yet, but one of the things that we're always concerned about, and it's especially difficult on a building that's on the corner of a street or in a passageway, is the visibility of elevator overrides and HVAC equipment. Did you say that there would not be an elevator override?
Yeah, that's what we're working toward. Alexander, I don't know if you want to chime in, but we definitely have enough height, we believe, to where we can accommodate the elevator overrun, and work with an elevator consultant to reduce that overall height and position the hoist beam to where it doesn't extend beyond the roof.
Great, because where you've located the elevator, it will be very visible if there is an override, so.
Right.
And
I mean, I think that where we've located it is also probably one of the least visible possible locations. If you thought about other locations in the plan where it might go, except possibly dead center, which would make the plan almost unusable. So, but agree with Mimi that we are optimistic. We haven't scanned the building, so we don't have a perfect understanding of the depth of the attic, but we're pretty optimistic we can capture the elevator within the existing roof.
I'm going to go to the aerial. I believe this might be helpful, just to at least show you where HVAC equipment exists.
that's where it belongs. That's great.
Yeah, the current thought is that this would be replaced in kind and not extend in terms of dimensional.
And you'll move up the HVAC equipment that's down below there too.
Correct. This will at least improve that by not having that be there.
Because it won't be condo units any longer, it'll be a different system that will probably have fewer condensers serving the whole building. So we're optimistic there won't be a visual impact to the HVAC solution.
So Kathy, maybe we open it up for some public comment, and then we can go back to commissioners too.
That sounds great. Commissioners, we take it that you have no other comments at the moment. So let's do that, Joe.
Okay, let me just get your script up.
Thank you.
All right, you should be able to see that.
I don't actually, even though I should have it memorized at this point.
You know, I can read it for you.
Should I stop sharing?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, I thought.
Okay.
And now I see it, Joe. I can see
Okay.
it. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use a platform, you may press *9, raise your hand, or you may send a request to staff via email at backbayac@boston.gov. Public comment will be limited to 2 minutes per person and should be focused on a project's exterior architectural features, which includes landscaping. Issues related to use, street traffic, and noise are outside of the commissioner's purview. So we have, I see you, Serge, with a comment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. We did review this application during our meeting, as Mimi just mentioned. And we think that the rendering that they're proposing is of option B is more interesting. But I would think that I would look in the rendering to have something that would be probably closer to 267 in its appearance, and also 267 has a very very nicely decorated grade on top. Here, what we see was more a transom in glass. So I think more connection between 267 by being the two addresses of that building at each end of the element would make more symmetry and more, I would say, uniformity, and would allow this entrance to be used for accessibility use. And the entrance in 267, we did find that even in photos dating back from Bainbridge bunting from to 1941, this was already lowered at 1941. So this design at 267 is already present for a number of years. So I think this is the approach I would suggest, but I would think that the door that has been selected and that was shown here probably could be elaborated and maybe trimmed more towards the door of 267 than trying to mimic the door that is currently at 265.
Great. Thank you, Serge.
Can I have a follow-up question to that? Because we're happy to look at that. And I'm curious what the commission's attitude is to replicating a door from a set period of time that might have not been original to the building. Is that a direction you want us to explore for this door, or this is a question that we always have, because for instance, if we're looking at national parks standards, they would tell us to not replicate a period of time, but you know, we're open to understanding your, you know, approach to this.
Yeah, the problem that you've got is that originally none of these had doors. And so now you have a situation where at 267, you have a door that was put in sometime before 1941, based on the bunting photos. We don't have an original photo, unfortunately, at least I don't, of those, of 267 that would tell us when it might have been put in. But since you have that, I think the point that Serge makes about balancing the two and having them be similar will be better than coming up with a different design, because there isn't an original door that you can replicate, because there wasn't one in that position.
Okay, that's helpful.
Okay. And Sue, I see you have your hand up also.
Yes, thank you. The fire escape is a big problem, and you know that. What is the requirement for you to supply fire egress for the next door building?
Is that a question to us?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to say that's the $1 million question. We don't even know who to ask about this. It exists today, and we certainly wouldn't want to put we're just trying to be good neighbors. It is not a conversation we've had with, you know, Boston Fire Department or not. But it just seems that we would not want to make their safety condition less than it is today. And that's the attitude we're taking. We can certainly do a little bit more digging into you know, what is required. There is no code that's going to guide us for this. This is probably honestly going to be a call from Boston Fire Department if we can remove that condition. And I would say,
I know some of the buildings just have balconies that go across the party wall and gets them into your first window if they're having a fire. And I know that works for most residential groups, so it might be something you could look at. What I'm thinking about is, would it be possible to look at putting the elevator outside rather than the second stair, which would give you a little more room inside and probably not have such an impact on the rear facade. It's just a thought from a cheap seats, and I don't know if it's worthwhile, but it might be something to look at.
yeah. I'm not sharing my screen right now, but we did look at an addition on the rear. It would have been smaller than the stair, admittedly, but that really does not fall within any part of the guidelines. A fire escape says it could be considered, so that's where is our little bit of opening to consider the rear exterior stair, but any addition over
I know they did it in
story,
the residential building on Marlborough Street, that they added an elevator in the back. So, you know, given the difficult situation, it might be considered. I don't know.
And maybe if you're talking about was it the 2-story structure that is that what you were just referring to, that was featured in one of the renderings?
Well, it was a structure that included a stair that was a second means of egress. I'm happy to share if that's possible.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead.
So again, maybe if I go to slideshow, so this proposal is quite deeper than an elevator would be because it's a second stair that's running, you know, parallel to the property, to the, you know, to the alley. If we did an elevator, it would definitely come off the rear less, but it still would be a structure. And in this case, we were doing some gymnastics where we didn't even take the stair all the way up to the 4th level. We were respecting that cornice line and doing some gymnastics to transfer the stair within. Because we even thought that maybe crossing that cornice line was way too much of an ask. So an elevator would be more complicated because we would have to get it up to that 4th level for accessibility. It might not come out as much to the rear of the property, but it certainly would be taller.
It also would provide a barrier between you and your neighboring buildings, so you run
Exactly.
into the fire issue again.
Right. And so we just thought, you know, this does need some work, admittedly, in terms of design, but the lightness and the airiness, we can at least imagine that we could improve upon versus just creating a solid mass that I don't think would be the right approach.
The question I have is, do you have to improve the current egress of those fire escapes? Do you have to do that, or is it just something that you want to do?
For the neighboring building or
Yes.
for the school? We have to provide
Both.
the second means of egress for the school. That is.
Well, they currently have that now with the current fire escape that goes from one window to the other window. That's the logic behind the current escape. Right. Are you required to make stairs now?
So we need to, in order to have a school and education use in this building, we have to have a second means of egress. That's a full compliable stair that meets all of the, you know, dimensional requirements for a second stair.
And are you saying that it also has to connect with the ground when is that what you're saying?
Yes,
For
we
it to
have
be,
to
for
egress
it to
to the
be a
ground.
school, it requires you to have stairs to go from top to bottom.
Okay.
Got it.
We need to
Okay.
have two ways to exit the building at every level.
So you currently have that.
In this condition, we do not have that. In this condition that we're proposing, we will have that.
I think Dave's point is that if you do have that in the sense that you have an ability to exit the building and go to the building next door with the existing balconies. But I think what you're saying is that because it's a school, that's not allowed under the law. You have to have the ability to get to the ground level from your building. Is that correct?
Correct. I mean,
Got
I
it.
think that, yes.
And that's why we're talking about stairs. Yeah.
Correct.
I think them as minimal as you can get. It doesn't appear that an addition is going to do anybody any good. And if you add to the current escape with a stair and keep it minimal, as I believe one of the commissioners mentioned, the bottom one there, that looks as clean as possible. That's your only other option, I think. And I agree with the front. The front needs to have some consistency with your other neighboring buildings.
Any other comments? Joe, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, just thank you. Keep us posted. I hope this was helpful feedback.
Yes.
And then, as you move forward, if, additional changes or, I did want to ask about the elevator override. So, you know, if it does turn out that you do have to do something more elaborate on the roof for that to let us know. But otherwise, we'll just wait to hear back from you.
Yeah. So, again, you may not see us for a few months because it is a process, as you can imagine.
You have the Board of Appeals.
Next, we have to go to ZBA, but that means we have to provide a set of drawings to ISD to get on the ZBA docket. And then we'll go through that process. And if we get a change of use of the building, which is a conditional use for this building, it can be converted into elementary school, but it is still a ZBA process. Once we get that could take months. Then we'll come back with really refined design updates and have further conversations with you all.
Very good.
Great.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, if you could stop sharing your screen, we'll move on to our next. Great. Thank you.
Also, Joe, did you see the public comment that was sent via email for 263 Clarendon?
No.
Yep. So the Margaret Smith Bell, she emailed us a question saying, you mentioned that there would be fewer AC condensers. Can you comment on the potential noise compared to current condensers? She submitted that 9 minutes ago.
Okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
And all I'll say is that we're too early in the process, but the next time we come and meet with you all, we'll note that that's a question and try to have an answer for you.
Yep. And noise is outside of our purview, just to reinforce that.
Okay.
Thank you.
But even just having a sense of, what the equipment is. And
Yes, that's.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank
And have
you. Really appreciate the feedback.
It's our pleasure. And we'll move on, Joe, to the next agenda item.
And that's administrative review.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the administrative review?
Motion to approve?
Second.
I'll second that.
Tom beat you to it. Sorry. Okay.
Tommy.
I withdraw my second. So
No. All right. David Sampson.
Yes.
Tom High.
Yes.
Gina Dimitriadis.
Yes.
Kathy Connor.
Yes.
Susanna Gaspar.
Yes.
Tanvi Nair.
Yes.
And Franklin Ross.
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you. And then we have minutes from November and from December hearings.
Move approval of both.
Second?
Okay. David Sampson.
Yes.
Tom High.
Yes.
Gina Dimitriadis.
Yes.
Kathy Connor.
Yes.
Susanna Gaspar.
Abstain.
What's that?
Abstain.
Abstain. Yep. Okay. Tanvi Nair.
Yes.
And Franklin Ross.
Abstain.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then staff updates. We will be scheduling a second subcommittee meeting to 18 Commonwealth Avenue, and hopefully we'll be doing that the week of January 27th. So as soon as that date and time, hopefully it won't be as cold as it is last time we were there or today. I'll let everyone know, but we'll be looking at samples for the cast stone for the front facade. Commissioner updates. Ethel McLeod has decided not to continue on the commission. She was a member of the nominated by the Boston Society of Architects and just has too much on her plate to continue. Her term, she is in holdover status, so her term did expire. And those are my updates.
Great. Thank you, Joe. So at this point, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Good, Tom.
So moved.
All right. Who's going to second? Who's going to second that?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you all for this evening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.
Very good.
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.